What's good? It's your boy 2K here. Shout out to the movement and everybody who's moving with us. Also, man, if you're following my channel and you still haven't gone to 3kingsboxing.com, man, you need to take your ass over there and get the latest and greatest. We are killing them out there, man. We only 2 months old and we dropping a lot of shit before a lot of these major media outlets are actually able to get it out. Man, for example, shit made me laugh. There was a tweet from Box Nation, I think it was yesterday or earlier today, talking about, yeah, Lee Selby will be defending his IBF title against Josh Warrington. Yo, 3 Kings Boxing dropped that shit last month. And the proof is on my channel. I did a fucking video telling you cats that Lee Selby versus Josh Warrington was on December 21st, dog. What's today? January 23rd, 2018? That's over a month. That's the type of shit I'm talking about, man. We killing them at 3kingsboxing.com. Get your ass over there, man. Real talk. For this video, I thought about putting it on a What's Hot segment. And I took it off and I was like, man, I might have a lot of shit to say. But then I thought about it again. I was like, well, I really don't have that much to say because, I mean, this wasn't a surprise to me, right? The Boxing Writers Association of America, the BWAA, pretty reputable source for pound rankings. A lot of good information that they put out there. And then they also crown, you know, fighters of the year, trainers of the year, managers of the year, you know what I'm saying, and promoters of the year, right? They have 4 categories. Well, out of those 4 categories, they gave Vasyl Lomachenko or his team 3 out of the 4 categories. Now, let me read them off to y'all. Promoter of the year, which was the only category that did not go to a member of Vasyl Lomachenko's team, which would have been top ranked, and would have been Bob Arum or Todd DeBuff, right? They gave it to Lou DiBella. Now, that one doesn't really bother me too much. It is what it is. I really don't care about promoter of the year. You know what I'm saying? They're a bunch of crooked ass niggas anyway. And to be honest with you, Lou DiBella, the way that he's managed Deontay Wilder's career alongside of Al Heyman, it's been atrocious. You know what I'm saying? There's no reason why the WBC heavyweight champion of the world should not be more popular than what he is. You know what I'm saying? A guy who's like 38-0 with 37 knockouts, he should be extremely popular. Now, of course, there's a lot to go along with that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, his team needs to be pushing him a lot better than what they are. And a lot of the issues stemming from that happen to be the matchups that he was involved in when he was defending his title. And also, in my opinion, I don't think Deontay Wilder or Lou DiBella actually tried to get him ranked in the other organizations the way that they should have, right? Now, they all trying to clean it up now, and I'm 100% with them right now. They will be fighting Luis Ortiz March 3rd. This could be the start of getting this guy out there. But a motherfucker with that much power, you know what I'm saying? He's an intimidating figure to a lot of the heavyweights, right? And he's holding the most prestigious title, even though the moniker is We Beat Crooks for the WBC. Again, you can't deny the fact that the WBC is the most prestigious out of the 4 major sanctioning bodies. He holds that belt. He should be out there and be a lot more popular. I blame his team for that. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. I mean, promoter of the year to me doesn't really fucking matter. Goes to Lou DiBella. All right, you know, kudos to him. But manager of the year. Matter of fact, let me wait on that because I got a whole lot to say about that shit. Let's go to trainer of the year, which wasn't too bad. It was Anatoly Lomachenko, Vasyl Lomachenko's dad, right? Now, Anatoly Lomachenko, in my opinion, along with what's his name, Brian McIntyre, who's the trainer for Terrence Crawford, those two posed the biggest threat for Derrick James, the trainer for Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence, right? But see, I think Anatoly Lomachenko was much more of a threat. And if you haven't heard the interview that myself and Bo over at Truth and Facts About Boxing gave recently to Derrick James, you could check that interview out on Truth and Facts About Boxing YouTube channel. I told Derrick James over the phone that, hey, you know, you're a finalist for the BWAA Trainer of the Year award, but the only, in my opinion, the only person you have to worry about is Anatoly Lomachenko for his work with, of course, Vasyl Lomachenko and Alexander Usyk, who's been tearing through the World Boxing Super Series tournament for the cruiserweights, right? Now, of course, he didn't look good in his first fight without Uncle James Ali Bashir, right? His first fight with Anatoly Lomachenko as a professional anyway, against Michael Hunter, a guy that was on a motherfucking 365-day layoff basically, and he came in there and actually gave Alexander Usyk some trouble, right? He didn't look good in that fight, but since then he's looked good beating Marco Huck, you know what I'm saying, and at this point in time against Mars Bradis, which will be coming up this weekend. It's a toss-up fight, right? Two undefeated fighters. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Alexander Usyk is the WBO champion, WBO cruiserweight champion, and Mars Bradis, I believe, is the WBA. I might be wrong. I'm not looking at it right now. YouTube, correct me if I'm wrong. But those are two high-level fighters getting in the ring to unify at cruiserweight. You know, something that we all want as real boxing fans. We want guys to unify those divisions, right? So Anatoly Lomachenko has put him, even though James Ali Bashir did a lot of the grunt work in the Olympics for Alexander Usyk, and as him being a professional, Anatoly Lomachenko was actually with Alexander Usyk pretty much his entire amateur career up until the Olympics. So he's actually honed his style that he has, and you can see how he fights like a big Vasyl Lomachenko, right? He's a big moving guy. You don't really see that very often with the cruiserweights, the heavyweights, etc. So his work with Usyk, and of course his work with Lomachenko, well, to me that was the biggest threat. But I still felt Derrick James should have taken this award simply because you've got Errol Spence, who Derrick James has pretty much been with since the beginning of his boxing career, and we're talking amateurs, right? Since he was a kid. It was the same relationship that Yoel Diaz had with Timothy Bradley, right? The same relationship that Andre Ward had with Virgil Hunter, right? These trainers are honing these kids, bringing them up through the amateurs and making them successful professional fighters. Something that Mike Stafford wished he could do with Adrian Broner. And Adrian Broner has success. He's a 4-time champion in 4 different weight classes. A couple of them titles are they got asterisks next to him, like, you know, getting a title shot after losing to Sean Porter against Khabib Alikverdiev immediately at 140. I thought he lost to Paulie Malignaggi at 147. So in my opinion, he should only be a 2-time champion, but it is what it is. He's a 4-time champion. We can't deny that. But Adrian Broner should be a lot more successful than what he really is, right? And Mike Stafford wasn't able to tap into Adrian Broner's potential, 100% of his potential, at least not yet, right? Whereas guys like Virgil Hunter and Yoel Diaz were able to do that with Adrian Broner and Timothy Bradley, respectively. And this is exactly what Derrick James has done with Errol Spence. Errol Spence, as a professional, was just this guy who was being used as a sparring partner at one point in time, right? And we heard the story, you know, it was through the grapevine. He knocked out Adrian Broner while he was standing up. And Adrian Broner was out on his feet, right? We heard that story and we're like, damn, really? Well, who's this Errol Spence guy, right? And then later we hear a story about how Errol Spence gave Floyd Mayweather so much hell in sparring that Floyd kicked him out the gym. So then it became like this urban myth, right? This legend, this Errol Spence guy. Yeah, he's fucking niggas up in sparring, but is he really the truth like his nickname says he is, right? And of course, you know, we only get accounts of what, people's accounts of what's actually happening in these sparring sessions. You don't have any footage, right? So we're going off of what people are telling us. People like Freddie Roach, for example, going off what they tell us, right? Well, we see Errol Spence against these prospects, Chris Van Heerden, Alejandro Barrera, right? We see him against these prospects, and he just annihilating them. He steps up a little bit against Chris Algieri, annihilates him, beats him worse than Manny Pacquiao did, right? Steps up a little bit more against a tough and rugged fighter in Leonard Bundu, annihilates him as well, better than Keith Thurman was able to, right? Then it's like, all right, this motherfucker might really be something. But let's see what he does against Kell Brook. He's now the mandatory for the IBF title, right? Goes to the UK and knocks Kell Brook out in a tough fight, but a fight in which, if you know boxing, you know what you're looking at. You saw him starting to turn that tide based on his ring IQ, probably in round 3. Hell, me watching the fight, I knew by round 5 that Errol Spence was going to stop Kell Brook. I said it to my wife, and I said it to my man, shout out to my man Ace. I said it to him as well. Kell Brook will be stopped late in this fight. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what happened. So at that point in time, Derek James has taken Errol Spence from this urban mythical legend of a sparring partner to the IBF welterweight champion of the world and one of the more feared fighters in the sport. He's got 147 shook. Sean Porter don't want none. Keith Thurman, Miss Keithan Gregory Josephine Thurman, Miss Thurman if you're nasty. You know what I'm saying? He's got her. Yes, I said it right. He's got her shook, right? Danny Garcia don't want none. The only motherfucker that's actually saying he'll fight him is Terrence Crawford, who moved up from 140. That's how bad it is right now. You know what I mean? So he's turned this motherfucker into a boogeyman. Then you got Jermell Charlo, who was this outside boxer, right? You got let me just say this. You got the Charlo twins. You got Jamal and Jermell. Jamal had always been the banger, right? The motherfucker that was the boxer puncher of the family. Can move in behind his jab, get a little bit at mid-range distance, and start hitting you with a lot of short, compact shots, going for the knockout. And as they were rising as prospects, Jamal Charlo was clearly the guy with the power, right? Jermell was a guy that didn't have that much power, but he was a boxer. He stayed on the outside, used his jab, right? Used his footwork. You know what I'm saying? He did that against Vanez Martirosyan, a very close fight that could have gone either way. He fought the better opposition than Jamal Charlo, actually, when he was with Ronnie Shields. But then he goes to Derek James, and he's turned into a guy who was known as an outside fighter who didn't have that much power, into a guy who sits on his punches and can knock motherfuckers out with one shot, right? A la Erickson Lubin, sleeping niggas and making them shake and shit, right? You know what I'm saying? So he's actually almost turned Jermell Charlo into a boogeyman, right? Almost, not necessarily. But what we're seeing here is Derek James has single-handedly made Jermell Charlo a major factor at 154, when at one point in time, we were all saying, well, you know, Jermell is pretty good, but Jamal is the better brother. I'm hearing cats say Jermell is the better brother now because of what Derek James has been able to do with him. So now he's brought a prospect up into a pound-for-pound fighter, what a lot of people believe Errol Spence is a pound-for-pound fighter. Just ask Teddy Atlas, right? And then he's brought a guy whom a lot of people thought was good but didn't think he would be great into a motherfucker who's one of the major players at 154. And he did it all in the same year, right? To me, it's a no-brainer that Derek James should have gotten this award. But it is what it is. They gave it to Anatoly Lomachenko. And I really firmly believe that it's because of what Loma was able to do to Rigo. And this is what Rigo has done for us. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Rigo. You know what I'm saying? He made this guy quit. It was billed as one of the biggest fights of 2017. I can't deny that I billed it as one of those fights, right? And it is what it is. Lomachenko was able to beat this guy in dramatic fashion. He was able to make a guy quit. You know what I'm saying? If you watch the fucking movie Bloodsport, he had that nigga Rigo saying Mate. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. That's why they gave it to Anatoly Lomachenko. And that's why for the next award, Fighter of the Year, they gave it to Vasyl Lomachenko, right? Those two awards went hand in hand. So it is what it is. Now let me go to the Manager of the Year, which went to Vasyl's manager, Aegis Klimas. Now, Vasyl Lomachenko winning Fighter of the Year, I don't think that should have happened. Let me just say that. Let me just say this real quick before I go to the Manager of the Year. I don't think that should have happened simply because Terrence Crawford is the first undisputed champion in 11 years in men's boxing, right? The last documented undisputed champion in terms of when this particular fighter achieved the accolade was O'Neal Bell when he knocked out John Mark Mormick. And I've talked about this previously on my channel. He knocked out John Mark Mormick in 2006, which was before the WBO was recognized as a major organization needed in order to become undisputed, right? At that time, all you needed was the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF to be undisputed. The last reigning undisputed champion, of course, was Jermaine Taylor, who did have all 4 titles that he got off of Bernard Hopkins, but he was stripped later that year, right? Same year that O'Neal Bell won it. So we got 11 years since we've seen an undisputed champion. And see, this is the problem. A lot of people they underrate the idea of undisputed champion. It's funny because it's the same motherfuckers that say, oh man, we should only have 1 champion per division. But they still underrate the importance of undisputed. This shit means that you are the only fucking champion, right? It's not unified champion. And then a lot of people say, well, he unified the division. That means he's undisputed. Let me separate that real quick, because a lot of people throw the word unify around and you can only have 2 belts, right? Undisputed is undisputed. You have all 4, right? Since February 2007, you now have all 4 to become undisputed. Unified, you can have a combination of 2 of the 4 major sanctioning bodies, right? So undisputed isn't necessarily unified, right? Or let me say this. Unified isn't undisputed, but undisputed is unified, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So when a nigga's undisputed, you don't say he's unified anymore. You give him undisputed status. He is the true champion in that division, right? It's not lineal champion. Lineal champion, you don't even need more than 1 belt to be lineal champion. All you got to do is beat the guy who was seen as the top fighter in the division, who had beaten other guys to become that top fighter in the division. You could be the wackest nigga. You know what? Let me say this. Perfect example right here. If James DeGale would have beaten Badu Jack, right? He probably would have became the lineal champion at 168, right? And that's just because it was 2 guys that are the top 2 fighters at 168. Okay? They had, each one of them had pretty much taken turns beating the other top fighters at 168, right? So if he would have beaten Badu Jack, he would have been the lineal champion. And then Caleb Truax, a journeyman who just beat James DeGale, he would have became the lineal champion now. That's what that means. You see what I'm saying? You could come from straight bum status, nigga. You could come from holding a motherfucking sign right underneath the overpass saying, we'll fight for food. You know what I'm saying? And to become a lineal champion if you beat the right guy. That's what could happen. So undisputed and lineal champion is not the same thing, and undisputed actually trumps lineal champion. This is one of the greatest accolades a fighter can achieve for his legacy. You know what I mean? And this is something Terrence Crawford was able to do. It doesn't matter what the fuck you think about Julius Ndongo. Doesn't matter. Julius Ndongo in a 6-month span beat 2 champions, right? And he held 2 belts. That's something that a lot of motherfuckers can't achieve. So it doesn't matter how you stack Julius Ndongo's skill set up against Terrence Crawford before that fight actually happened. It happened, and he beat the shit out of him, right? he achieved something, Julius Ndongo rather, he achieved something that a lot of fighters were not able to achieve in a 6-month span. You can't deny that shit. And to be honest with you, if you're trying to knock Terrence Crawford's rise as an undisputed champion, you're really giving him praise because you're saying he was just that good, too good for a guy like Julius Ndongo, who did beat 2 champions, right? He was too good for that guy to actually measure up. You're actually not knocking his status, you're praising him at the end of the day. Anyway, man, so Terrence Crawford should have, in my opinion, easily gotten that motherfucking Fight of the Year award simply because of that right there. You know what I mean? And it kind of, as much respect as the BWAA gets, it's kind of crazy that they just overlooked that accolade that he achieved, right? Now let's move to Manager of the Year. Aegis Klimas, Vasyl Lomachenko's manager. How the fuck do you give Manager of the Year to a guy who tried to keep Vasyl Lomachenko out of the fights that ultimately got him Fighter of the Year? Aegis Klimas was on Twitter trying to tell Rigo that they don't want to fight him, right? He was trying to stop the goddamn fight for a long time. And then, you know, Loma, being the fighter that he is, having the correct mentality, he said, fuck that, man, make the fight. He's talking all this shit. Put me in the ring with this motherfucker and I'm gonna show y'all why this nigga's not on my level, right? So, Vasyl Lomachenko's the fighter. He pays his manager to advise him and he pays his promoter to promote him. So if he wants a particular fight to happen and he really wants it to happen, it's gonna go down. I've gone over this numerous times on my channel as well, right? How people underrate the power of the fighter, right? So this is what he did. He said, fuck it. This guy keeps calling me out on Twitter. He keeps calling me out everywhere the fuck I go. I see some of my fans thinking I'm ducking. Man, make the goddamn fight and I'll beat the shit out this dude. You see what I'm saying? And they made it. But throughout that whole ordeal, Aegis Klimas was trying to keep Rigo out of the ring with Vasyl Lomachenko, man. So how do you give him Manager of the Year when he was giving bad advice? You know what I'm saying? He was giving bad advice. Fucking amazing. You know, it is what it is. This wasn't a surprise to me though, you know, because as soon as Vasyl Lomachenko, let me say this, as soon as Rigo said no mas, I told cats, Vasyl Lomachenko is the Fighter of the Year. I told cats this was gonna happen. And when the BWAA announced it, and when 3kingsboxing.com reported on it, I was like, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, not one bit. You know what I'm saying? I knew this was coming. In my opinion, I don't give a fuck about Promoter of the Year, Lou DiBella, whatever. But I don't think Aegis Klimas should be Manager of the Year. I don't think Anatoly Lomachenko should be Trainer of the Year, even though he probably has the best case for it. Derek James should have taken that easily. And I think Terrence Crawford should have taken Fighter of the Year. And Terrence Crawford is the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in the sport right now, man. Come on, man. This is ridiculous. And there's something that Terrence Crawford said that I'm going to get to a little bit later. YouTube, do what you do in the comment section. Be real. Let me know what you think about these awards. The BWAA awarding pretty much three people out of Vasyl Lomachenko's team, including Vasyl Lomachenko himself, for 3 out of their 4 categories. Let me know what you think. This is real talk for real fans. 1.